Hi guys, I wanted to do a little addendum today onto the language piece that we did before. And that's because I remembered what I was going to say before and then also wanted to add another thing that I did add in the description of the first one. But those two things are that language can be either disconnecting for us, or it can be a connecting tool. So it really is a neutral tool, and we can use it in whichever way we do. So it's somewhat related to what I was saying. My glasses are so foggy. What I was saying about that we can use language to deceive or to actually provide information or talk about our feelings. We can also use language to uncover where we have stopped actually seeing ourselves from a natural point of view. We can uncover where we're living in a world of ideas using language sometimes, or we can relay that. I'm doing that right now. Right now, through this course, I'm sitting here with you, talking back into our bodies, talking us back into a sense of connection. And it's not about the talking, but it's actually, obviously about the digging into where we dismembered ourselves, where we cut ourselves off from our awareness of our bodies. And language, like we're doing now, can be used to remember ourselves in so many ways. The other thing I wanted to mention was that actually they're very, very connected now that I think about it, because we can use we can use language to connect ourselves back into connection with our bodies and with nature and with our true nature. We can also tell stories in our heads and disconnect ourselves from that. Instead of observing our bodies through all of our 54 natural senses, we can be in our heads completely and be telling ourselves stories. And our bodies physiologically react to that. That becomes a reality to them. So for instance, yesterday, I went to work out in the morning, and then I came back and I was doing a lot of research and studying and listening to lectures. So I was inside the whole rest of the day from like 9 o'clock, somewhere around 9 o'clock to somewhere around 6 o'clock. I was inside, basically in my head, not very self-connected, and definitely not out in nature. I have a lot of plants, which help so much to be reconnecting, but there's something about actually being physically grounded, earthing on the earth, that is completely different, and being outside is really different than being inside, no matter how much nature I'm bringing in. And bringing in nature is so important, I think, to integrate that into our lives. But it's different. It's a different level of connection than actually physically being outside. Me being outside on my little balcony is even better than being inside. Having my sliding glass door open to the outside is better than not having that open, but it's all kind of on a spectrum from being totally inside with maybe no windows and no light, and in like a cement room with no natural features in it, to really just being outside, sitting on the ground in nature. There's a whole spectrum right in between there. So the closer we can get here to ass on the grass every day, the more we're going to thrive, because our bodies really do thrive in that. Okay, that was a sidetrack. So anyway, I was pretty disconnected, and baby was coming home, and I kind of realized, oh my gosh, I'm really disconnected. And I was also really in my head, looking at what my next steps are for business and how I want to share things and what I want to share. And a lot of times that's really exciting to me. Most of the time it's very exciting to me. But if I'm disconnected, fear can really start to take over, and ego can really start to take over. And my mind started telling these stories of, like, you know, all the not good enough stuff and all of that, right? Fear just kind of started to spin out. But I knew exactly what to do. So as soon as I noticed that, I went outside and I took a walk, and I just started breathing and looking at the trees and the hills, and I took my shoes off and walked on the grass and walked all the way to the end of my street where there's a nature preserve area, and I just sat on the grass in front of that for the longest time. And actually I had a little cry because I had so much tension built up from these stories in my head. And then I felt better, and I started to feel more alignment with the moment, and all of that comes flooding back that, oh, this is why I talk about this stuff and why I teach this stuff, because I need it so badly, and I know 1,000,000,000% how it can bring me right back into my body, into the present moment, into appreciation, into the knowing and the wisdom of my body. So yeah, I had a little cry, I released that tension, I came back into the moment, and just gradually came more and more back into my body and into the knowing of myself as the moment. We really can screw ourselves up by what we tell ourselves in our head. And if we don't have this knowledge of knowing first that that isn't the truth, then second of all, knowing how to get out of our mental spirals, get out of our head back into our body. If we don't know how to do that, it's very scary. We end up relying on, like, telling ourselves more stories, like, well, that can't be true because I actually have a lot of experience and I do know what to say, and, you know, all of that, which is, I mean, maybe true, but the real issue when we go into fear spins and anxiety is about the stories we're telling ourselves in our brain and our physiological responses to that. So instead of just telling ourselves different stories, which is also helpful, but if we come back into our body and become aligned with the present moment and become who we actually are, which is that moment, which is life happening in that moment, we don't have to tell ourselves stories. We just come back into the truth of who we are, and then we can move from there, because that's not a fear space. So just a little story to exemplify how language really can connect us or really disconnect us, and how once we realize that, we can use it as a tool for reconnection. So I'm wishing you a wonderful day. Thanks for listening to that little part 2, and I'll see you later. Bye.